The forgotten Nakba. The expulsion of Palestinians from Kuwait. The historical context of Palestinians in Kuwait. The pre-Gulf War context. The early Palestinian migration to Kuwait. The influx of Palestinians into Kuwait began in the late 1940s and 1950s. Initially, many Palestinians fled the destruction of their homes during the Arab-Israeli conflict. This was followed by waves of immigration due to political and economic instability in their homeland. With the rapid development of Kuwait's oil sector in the 1950s and 1960s, the state became an economic hub for laborers, including a large number of skilled Palestinian professionals. Kuwait's integration of Palestinians. By the 1980s, Palestinians had become well integrated into Kuwaiti society, forming a sizable portion of the population. Palestinians were represented in various sectors, including education, medicine, engineering, and the government. It was not just about economic labor, but also about the cultural exchange and strengthening of Arab unity. Many Palestinians married Kuwaitis, forming mixed families. The Palestinian national identity and Kuwait's role. Palestinians in Kuwait were not only there for employment, many had strong political ties to the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, which was one of the major representatives of the Palestinian cause at the time. This led to a sense of solidarity between Kuwait and Palestine, where Kuwaiti elites and policymakers often expressed vocal support for Palestinian self-determination. The government-supported PLO operations provided refuge to Palestinians displaced by war and allowed many to live in Kuwait with relative stability. The Gulf War, the turning point. The invasion of Kuwait and initial reactions. Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait, August 1990. On August 2, 1990, Iraq under Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, seeking to annex the country. This was a major shock for Kuwait, its allies, and the Arab world. The occupation would last for 7 months before Kuwait was liberated by a coalition force led by the United States and other Arab states in February 1991. Saddam's appeal to Palestinians. In the months leading up to the invasion, Saddam Hussein portrayed himself as the defender of Arab unity and the Palestinian cause, particularly in opposition to Western powers and Israel. He called for the Palestinian cause to be at the forefront of Arab geopolitics, positioning himself as a leader who would stand against the imperialist West. Palestinian reaction. The Palestinian leadership, including the PLO, had its own complex relationships with Saddam Hussein's regime. Some Palestinians, particularly those in the diaspora and in Kuwait, felt sympathy for Saddam's stance on Palestine, while others were more hesitant or opposed. It's essential to recognize that Palestinians are not a monolithic group, and opinions on political matters like Saddam's leadership were diverse. The aftermath of the Gulf War, the expulsion of Palestinians. The political fallout. Kuwaiti government's reaction to the Palestinian alignment. When Kuwait was liberated from Iraqi occupation in February 1991, the Kuwaiti government faced a major dilemma. Many Palestinians had openly expressed their support for Saddam Hussein's position on Palestine and Iraq's invasion of Kuwait. The Kuwaiti leadership viewed this as an act of betrayal. The Kuwaiti nationalist backlash. Many Kuwaitis who had suffered immensely under the brutal occupation saw Palestinian support for Saddam Hussein as a betrayal. They believed Palestinians should have stood with Kuwait in its fight for independence rather than siding with an aggressor. This led to widespread hostility toward the Palestinian community. Expulsion of Palestinians. After the Gulf War, approximately 400,000 Palestinians were expelled from Kuwait. The government launched a series of actions to force Palestinians to leave, while Kuwaiti society began to engage in a systematic campaign of hostility toward Palestinians. Many Palestinians were given no choice but to leave with little to no compensation or legal recourse. The human cost. The removal of Palestinians from Kuwait was not a voluntary emigration. It was, for many, a traumatic experience that led to the breaking up of families and the loss of homes and livelihoods. Many Palestinians had spent decades in Kuwait contributing to its development. Families with deep roots in the country were suddenly uprooted, sent to neighboring countries like Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and beyond. The expulsion also created a complex refugee problem, as Palestinians had nowhere to go in many cases. Myths and propaganda. The misinformation about Palestinians during the Gulf War. The role of propaganda. Portrayal of Palestinians as traitors. One of the most damaging consequences of the Gulf War was the mass media's role in shaping the narrative of Palestinian disloyalty. While some individuals among the Palestinian population may have supported Saddam Hussein, this was not reflective of the entire community. However, the media's portrayal painted all Palestinians as traitors, a narrative that still persists in many circles today. Allegations of violence and crimes. Among the many exaggerated claims made about Palestinians in Kuwait, one of the most enduring is the allegation of widespread looting, violence, and even rape. However, upon investigation, these allegations were not substantiated by any credible evidence. The accusations were largely based on rumors, and in the context of war and occupation, these stories were amplified and weaponized for political purposes. Palestinians were caught in the crossfire of a regional conflict with little power or agency to change the course of events. The truth behind the claims. There is no concrete evidence to suggest that Palestinians as a group were involved in widespread looting or rapes. Many of these allegations were the result of media sensationalism or political agendas designed to further isolate Palestinians and justify their expulsion. For those who lived through the war, it's clear that the majority of Palestinians were simply victims of the same violence that affected Kuwaitis and other Arabs in the region. Long-term effects, the displacement of Palestinians. Life after the Gulf War. Repercussions of displacement. The expulsion from Kuwait created a lasting sense of loss and disillusionment among Palestinians. Many had lived in Kuwait for decades, contributing to its prosperity. Being expelled without compensation or the ability to return shattered many families and left them stranded in neighboring countries, struggling to rebuild their lives. Continued refugee status. The Palestinians who were expelled from Kuwait were often left without a permanent status in their host countries. Many were subjected to difficult conditions, including a lack of legal rights, poor living conditions, and political disenfranchisement. Psychological impact. The trauma of being branded a traitor and forced to leave everything behind left deep psychological scars. Palestinians who had enjoyed a relatively stable life in Kuwait found themselves once again part of a refugee crisis. The idea that they had been scapegoated for the actions of a few individuals added to the psychological toll. Challenging the narrative, the truth behind the lies. The importance of historical accuracy. A call for truth and reconciliation. It's essential to debunk the myths surrounding the Gulf War and the Palestinian community's role in it. Many of the narratives around the treatment of Palestinians were driven by political agendas rather than facts. The collective memory of the Gulf War is littered with falsehoods and exaggerations that have shaped the perception of Palestinians, both in Kuwait and in the wider Arab world. A platform for Palestinian voices. In order to create a more accurate and fair historical record, it's essential to listen to the stories of Palestinians who lived through the Gulf War. Their voices, their pain, and their resilience must be heard and recognized. They were not just passive victims, they were people who, like Kuwaitis, experienced the horrors of war, occupation, and displacement. Conclusion. A call to confront the past and build a fair future. The experience of Palestinians in Kuwait during and after the Gulf War is a painful chapter of history that has been clouded by political manipulation, media distortion, and widespread misinformation. By telling the full story, one that acknowledges the humanity of all involved, challenges the narratives of hate and division, and embraces the complexity of political allegiances, we can begin to correct the historical record. This is not just about clearing the name of Palestinians in Kuwait, but about striving for justice, truth, and reconciliation. This story is one that must be told with the utmost integrity, offering a voice to those who were silenced for too long and revealing the power of compassion in the face of conflict. By bringing this topic to light, we can help heal old wounds and work toward a future where facts, rather than propaganda, shape our understanding of history.